Shalom and welcome to 2 Minutes of Torah. This year is entitled Burial Does Not Necessarily Begin the Avela. If you ask anyone, when does Avela begin? Burial. Practically, yes. Conceptually, not necessarily the case. During the 3 weeks, allowing to learn Kachot Avelut. We are in National Avelut, and we should connect to Avelut. Never want people to first show when it hits the Avelut. They have no clue what's going on. It's important to learn categories of Avelut. It's not something that should be a taboo. So, it's not the burial per se. You say, what do you mean? That's what happens. You have the burial. That's when it begins. Yes, but that's not conceptually when it begins. Chas v'shalom, the golden family, mourning over that poor child killed and held in Hamas' hands. So after a few days of negotiations or weeks with government and Hamas, no, they're convinced. Chief Rabbi of the army is convinced we're not getting the body back. They give up hope. And at that moment, he knocks on the door and he says to the golden family, I'm sorry. There's no hope getting the body back to burial. So there's no burial. Yes, but Afelis begins then. What happens at the airport? Traveling, so you bring the body to the airport JFK, and then people turn around at the airport. They don't greet the body. Maybe your brother goes. So the Afelis begins right then and there. 24 hours before the burial, 12 hours before the burial. So what is it that begins Avela? Not the burial per se, but the removal, the person's removal from the mace. It's a stalkut from the mace. The removal, the last encounter could be when the person, the golden family, is told by the chief rabbi, that's it, there's no more kesha to the mate. Physically, of course, practically, not emotionally, obviously. So that moment is the departure from the mace. That's Avela. Person's at JFK, the last involvement in the mace, right before it goes off onto the runway. That's Avelis. Person's at the burial, that's the last involvement, finishing up the burial process. That's the last involvement. But it's not the burial per se, it's the last involvement in the mace that is the halachic cause of Avelis. That's what's the catalyst for Shiva. Shalom.